You know that sound is the Unfiltered Band. That means it is episode number 78. My birth year. So it's got to be, yes, 78. It's my birth year. It's got to be a good thing. We welcome you back to the Unfiltered Revolution. You can jump on at Casey Stern on Twitter and get into the bio and check out the YouTube channel, of course, where most of you are listening on Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcasts. As very happy and excited to have back on the program from Wfan and long time covering the Yankees and watching all sorts of history, yet nothing, because none of us have seen anything quite like what we're watching here with Mr. All Rise. Of course, I'm talking about Sweeny Murti. Sween, appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming back on board.
Yeah, Case, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Let me just put some context in terms of just being there in the building. That inning itself, I got to start there, because the irony is you can make a case for October. The Stanton swing was more important than the Judge swing because of that moment, how important that was for him to come through. I hate the where does that rank for yous, but as you're sitting there as kind of in that moment for a regular season game and all the years you're covering the Yankees, how high up would that inning be?
You might want to start over when I tell you. I wasn't there that night. I was working from home that night. I was still coming off COVID IL. So
that's all right. That's all right. That's all right.
I watched on TV like everybody else, and there are a few big moments in Yankees history that I have actually been away from the ballpark for various personal reasons, and they just happen to coincide with these great, oh my gosh, what was it like when you were there moments? And like, yeah, I actually wasn't there.
The one I was thinking of, Sween, that came to mind for me, which maybe we'll come in the state. You're going to be like, I wasn't there for that either. In 2004, when I was covering the Red Sox, going back way back when, the game with Jeter diving into the stands and Flaherty hits the home run. Is that Leskanic who was pitching? I think in the 14th.
Curtis. Wow, that's a good memory.
I think it was right in the 14th. That was the only other game that came to mind. Like when I was thinking of like regular season, because the Yankees are about the postseason, right? I mean, this was for a regular season moment. This got to be up there. What we just
you don't have. I would put that other one in a different category because it's. Yankees Red Sox took on a different life back then, and that whole thing became something else because of who it was, Jeter diving into the stands and all the other large personalities that were on the field. This was, this game was over, and then all of a sudden, in about 6 or 7 minutes, it shot to something else. That's not, that doesn't happen. This is something that was just, it was over, it was done. You weren't going to see anything special. People left. Okay, people left the building, and then something else happened altogether. I can't tell you. I guess that's why we probably love the game of baseball more. I'm trying to think of like the equivalent case. Like, I don't think you can do that in another sport. Like, you probably can't score, 4 touchdowns in a minute and a half.
Right.
Probably can't come from 20 points down in an NBA game.
You could do Reggie Miller, right? Is the one we all remember, kind of ish by himself, but that was 8-9 points in a minute, not 20.
Yeah. It's a little bit different, and so I think that listen, I'm sorry for the Pittsburgh Pirates that they were on the receiving end of that.
Yeah, they've been on the receiving end of a lot of those. They're used to it.
It really doesn't seem fair. I guess the key point here, though, Case, is that we're really not going to know until the season is over.
Right. See what it means.
Out from the first round.
Sure.
This really isn't going to feel like anything.
No.
It's going to feel something different if they go on. The Yankees have what I think they have a puncher's chance, as somebody else actually said to me in a text earlier this morning. And I had mentioned last week, it's going to take something like a miracle, like Aaron Judge is going to have to be Danny Manning with the 1988.
Oh, great. I love that. Against Oklahoma. That's a great Stacey King. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yes.
I feel like that's what the level Judge is going to have to rise to, and the rest of the Yankees is going to have to kind of come along with them because this team is beat up. They're really not a full-on juggernaut, and I think that's what's going to have to happen. And if they do make this run, okay, now we can come back and revisit. Wow, remember that Tuesday night against the Pirates?
That's right. Garrett Cole better be Danny Manning too. And by the way, great reference.
Exactly right.
Great reference.
Those two guys are going to have to be. They're going to have to be the guys who earn their money. And really take this up a notch if the Yankees are going to do something special with the season, I think.
One of the things that I've been saying about these chases, and I'm going to combine here Judge and Pujols for a second, even though obviously one is different than the other, single season versus career. The great part for us as fans is that after all of the question marks surrounding all of these home run chases that we have experienced, the ones that were taken from us after, like now when we look back at 98, right? And a lot of those memories are not what they were. I remember watching those games with my dad at the time, and those were memories that would have been different than they are now. How great is it just for us covering the sport that we've got people the level of Judge and Pujols, the rootable, likable, example type people that you would want in these spots? Because to me, that's what I think Sween is magnifying these moments for every baseball fan, is that unless you're a Red Sox fan or somebody who's just cranky, there aren't many people who aren't rooting for these two, because not only are they greats, but they're great people too, which helps.
I hope history is kind enough to remember them this way years from now, because I mean, frankly, I think a lot of us were saying the same thing about McGuire and Sosa, you know, and history wasn't kind to them or us for looking at it that way. So I listen, I want to say, yeah, you're right. Everything you're saying is right. And in the moment, it feels
It
like
feels
that's
that way.
the case. Um, you know, we were fooled once before. And I feel sorry for the people who are not able to really appreciate what getting to 60 really, that number is just amazing in itself. And unfortunately, and we were all part of it, Case, that we were part of something that makes it a little less special for a lot of people. And I don't want to feel that way. I want to feel like, wow. And because this is wrapped around the Yankees, who have the ties to Ruth and Maris, I do feel that I'm watching something really special, and I have an attachment to baseball history and numbers from my youth that I still feel I'm watching something really special here. Okay. And I feel like whether it's 60 or 700, 61, 700, whatever we're talking about, yeah, I feel like, wow, I'm watching something incredibly special happen in front of me, because those numbers were only, they were, those are black and white numbers. You know, those are things that happen in books I was reading. And there were only like still frames or like old black and white footage of those numbers, and I'm watching it unfold in front of me in living color. That I want that to mean something to me. Um, I hope history is kind enough to make it that way.
You mentioned talking about the 60 and the number. And by the way, I'm with you. And the way I look at it, Sweet, is that I think it's more special because of the fact that we could feel this way and enjoy it, at least in the moment. We have to kind of get up in it, I think, that way. I think because the past has been, unfortunate, and that's just to use a nice term, it makes it so nice to kind of be back in this, almost relive something again that was taken from us, kind of a
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
When you think about Judge and the home runs, for me, and even for me, I think for a lot of us, it got lost the season he was having. It got lost that he would be in front in all three Triple Crown categories, that he would be sitting there with an OPS in the second half better than Bonds had in the year that he did that sort of thing. How much do you think people maybe nationally are coming on a little bit late to the bandwagon of just the type of season outside the homers that Aaron Judge has had?
yeah. I mean, I think you almost have to, because we're always on pace for something, and we never get there.
Right.
We never listen. The Yankees were on pace for 120 wins. Okay,
That's right.
and there's a reason it didn't happen, because it's really hard to do. Um, I just looked back on something. I was sitting in the press conference room at Yankee Stadium yesterday, and I was sitting next to this giant Life magazine cover that they have blown up there that features Mantle and Maris. And I remember, and will they get to? It was from August of 1961, and it asks, "Are they going to challenge Babe Ruth?" And I remember looking at that picture a few months ago, sitting in that same room when Aaron Judge got to 20 home runs, and said, is this going to be fair to ask? And I just actually went back and looked up. I tweeted the picture, so I was able to scroll through yesterday, and I looked up. It was exactly a third of the way through the season. So it was 50 something games or first week in June, and you're saying, can Judge get to 60? And I said, is it a fair question to ask? You fast forward a couple of months. Yeah, I guess it was a fair question to ask because he got there. And I think that, because in case you and I, we know the history, we know the numbers, we look at certain, like, we're going to look at it in May or June and say, I wonder if he can get there, and let everybody else jump on board when he does. Okay. Because you're always on pace for something and you hardly ever get there. The thing, I'll even take this back. Labor Day, I was broadcasting a game with John Sterling, and Aaron Judge was around 300, and Luis Ariz was about 20 points in front of him. They were playing the Twins. It was the first game of a Twins series. So, it was natural to look at those two guys. And I said, listen, this isn't 20 points with a month to play. One guy shoots up 10 points. One guy shoots down 10 points. That's not unheard of. Well, it didn't happen quite that way. Judge went up about 17 points. And, he's hitting.
It's 317, right? 318?
476 in September.
Jeez.
Okay. In September, he's hitting 476. So he's at 317. He's leading the league in hitting. And I remember saying on Labor Day, listen, batting title and Triple Crown, we're talking about Roger Maris. Let's talk about Mickey Mantle, 56. And you're talking about chasing down some of the most iconic seasons in Yankees and Major League history. Judge has a chance to do this. And Sterling wasn't buying in quite yet. It was still early, and there was a 20-point gap. Okay, yeah, I was crazy, but it wasn't that crazy case. Okay, and it's fun to look at it in those terms, because now you are talking about not just a home run season, because Roger Maris hit 267, I think, in the year that he had 61 home runs, right, or thereabouts. Now you're talking about a guy who's ripping singles and doubles in this past month.
Two disappointing ones yesterday for the crowd.
Disappointing to the fans.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because it's all pretty remarkable, because he's going 2 for 4, and people are like, oh,
the first pitch he saw, he ripped a double 110 miles an hour.
But he's breaking certain metrics, right? He's breaking, BABIP metrics and exit velo metrics, and it's not supposed to happen like this, but he's doing it in these short bursts now in this month at a time when people are expecting. And that's the other thing, he's going up there the other night in the 9th inning in a game that they're losing by 4 runs. Everybody only wants to see one thing, and he delivered it. Pitcher falls behind 3-1, and you're saying, okay, here's the swing, take it and hit a home run and make everybody happy, and he did. It's really hard to do that when everybody's expecting one thing and you deliver it. Because remember, he proved it. You can't just hit a single or double and make the crowd happy. That's what Derek Jeter was able to do, right?
Right.
If you're talking about a hitting streak, all you have to do it like a bunt single, and everybody's going to go crazy, because the hitting streak's now at 30, at 40. Right. You can't do that when you're Aaron Judge. You have to hit the ball over the fence to make everybody happy. And guess what? It's working. He's doing it.
One of the things that I marvel at, and I'm curious kind of what you've seen from your vantage point this year watching this. I love when you get to the level of greatness, and I think about Jordan and the way that players used to talk about him, teammates and opponents. You've got Stanton, who hit 59 in a year, who's, been a dynamic player in his career and an MVP-type player. You've got younger kids like Gleyber Torres who are still having a lot of success. You've got guys who have won at big levels. They're talking about him, even though they're in the same room as him, Sween, like he's in some other planet that they've never been able to step foot on. What's that like, watching that, and how real and genuine and sincere that seems to be from his teammates right now?
I asked Zach Britton about it yesterday. I said, Britton played with a guy who had 50 home runs. He played with Chris Davis. He played with Manny Machado, who was, otherworldly abilities at such a young age. And you're watching a season that just is different. And I think the humility with which Judge takes this in, it's, the fact that he is kind of, he came up as a younger player with these guys and has grown into this. I think that rubs off on a lot of people. What you see, the interactions with the fans, those are things that everybody else in the room sees, and it takes a different level. There were people who played with Barry Bonds who, d- you know, they were in the same room with him and didn't feel like they were in the same room with him, right? Like that was not a pleasant experience for some people. This is different. Aaron Judge feels like, which goes back to what we were talking about before about how this all feels. We want this all, to be in this nice package because it just feels too good. And his teammates do look at that and say, they all know. Listen, Anthony Rizzo has hit 30 homers in a season many times, right? Like this is twice that. You're right. Giancarlo Stanton hit 59.
Yeah.
Okay, he never hit 60 with 2 weeks to go. There's something different here that these guys, because they see the work that goes into it, they see, he's been humbled. He's a guy who remembers and will be quick to remind you if you dig enough that he hit 179 as a rookie. And I had that conversation with him a few weeks ago, and trying to talk about hitting magic numbers, and he tells you I hit 179, and I had to prove that I belonged on this team. And there are those little battles that he's still waging every day to try to become a better hitter, a better player. And whether it's playing center field or helping his team on the base paths, there are things that he knows are part of the complete game. I remember having this conversation with him as a rookie. It just popped in my head again. He's 6'7". He looks like a defensive lineman, not a baseball player. And I asked him if people, if there was a time when he was maybe going to geared towards football or basketball or some other sport built more towards his size. And he said he always loved baseball because, you could go 0 for 4 and still help your team win that last time up, or make it play in the field, or do something on the bases that was going to help your team win the game that day. And listen, and that's hard to do in their sport. Like LeBron James can't score 2 points and expect his team to win. Tom Brady can't throw 4 interceptions, no touchdowns, and expect that his team's going to win. Aaron Judge can sit there and say, listen, I could go 0 for 4, but the 5th time I come up, I might be able to get a hit to help my team win a game. And that's something he appreciated about the sport. And those are the kinds of things, the characteristics, the personality characteristics, I think, that endear him to the rest of the people in the room.
Yeah, and I think you're going back to your point, and I don't want to speak for them, but I would imagine for a guy like Stanton specifically, who did it in Miami, right? And you're thinking of watching Aaron Judge in this cauldron that is New York in a walk year for the Yankees, playing center field with everyone it's amazing to me. All of that makes it even more special, which is why I want to end here and bring it here, because the conversation that needs to be had now is, one where we kind of, okay, pause the run, because, hopefully, God willing, he gets at least 2 more homers, but you're going to have an off season now where I know this version of the Steinbrenner family, we saw Cano, and they said, okay, well, we're not going there, right? We've seen trades they didn't want to make and prospects that they were willing to, hold on to and not go after, things George wouldn't have done, ... I can't imagine that if George was around, it gets here with what Judge is doing, he already probably would have paid him. And if not in the offseason, he'd pay him probably anything. Where are you on how much the Yankees see it that way now? Gonna break the mark, gonna sit there and be a hero in New York. How do you start a season next year, Sweeney, with a lineup that doesn't have Aaron Judge in it?
Yeah, listen, and they've played this game before with certain guys where, okay, because they were allowed to, okay, you didn't have to bid against yourself um, before he becomes a free agent, and now you're going to have to make the bid that's competitive against what other teams are going to offer. So listen, it's there, and some teams can't afford to do that, and you see those teams kind of make the half of an offer that they know that the player is not going to take and then trade them, right? Well, the Yankees aren't in that spot. Now they're going to in a spot where, okay, they're going to have to come up higher than where they were in April, and that's fine. They can do that. They're the Yankees. Um, it's probably, listen, it's, I hate to put it this way, but it's it's probably going to be disappointing in the end, right? Because whatever deal he signs with the Yankees, and I think he's going to, you know, he's probably not going to hit 60 home runs again. And whatever this deal looks like in year 7, 8, 9, wherever this ends, it's not going to look pretty at the end. None of them do. But you've got to do this, right? Like this is who.
It's a must now. Would you say that? I mean, is that
Yes,
fair? We're at
yes,
must
yes.
territory now.
Yeah,
Has
and
to,
I think the
right?
Yankees understand that, and you just kind of deal with it. They've had these deals. CC Sabathia, Mark Teixeira, Alex Rodriguez, all these deals. They don't all. None of them look good when they're done at the end of the last couple of years. You're not getting what you pay for, but okay, you pay for it now, and um, that's where they are, and I don't see any way around the fact that they have to sign this guy. I mean, if he had hit 41 home runs for the season, they'd still be in a position where you're like, you know what, I can't let that guy walk
Yeah.
away.
Right. But now
Well,
it's probably, and I'm with you, and I think that's where it's gone now to, with the heroic stature he's got with the fan base too and everything. It's must now. Now,
yeah,
whatever it is, whatever anybody else
that's right.
offers, we'll offer more, and that's it. Right.
And it's just going to be there. And I would hope that they're in a place where you can get that done before it goes to open bidding. They were in the spot with Derek Jeter when his contract ran out in
That's
2010,
right.
and you went into the awkward phase.
Got ugly.
This and Jeter was he had just finished up a 10-year deal. He's the late 30s at that point. Judge is in a different place, so I hope you can get that done before you get to the awkward phase. And we'll there's going to be a window here. And listen, the Yankees are kind of in control as to how big that window is, because we'll see how far they get in the postseason. That window gets a lot smaller if they go to the World Series. So we'll see how they attack it. I mean, yeah, listen, I think we'd all be shocked if he doesn't end up with the Yankees. That's not saying anything.
It's great theater to watch. It's fun every day to watch. Sween, most importantly, I'm glad you're feeling a bit better. Stay
Thanks,
well,
Case.
and that Penn State football is relevant for you. So enjoy
We're there.
that.
Yep.
Enjoy that as well. Stay on board the Unfiltered Revolution at Casey Stern, and continue if you're listening along the way. Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcast to Unfiltered from the Believe Network.